The date is June 22nd, 2007, near the small town of Elie, Manitoba, in southern Canada, where a warm and humid air mass is in place across the region. At this time, business is going as usual in the town of just over 500 people, but just a few miles to the northwest of town, two newly formed supercells are beginning to slowly track in Elie's direction. Just then, a tornado began to touch down, with Elie set directly in its sights. At this time, Lynn Kauppila and her husband were out on their porch, enjoying the end of another work week. It wasn't long before clouds moved in and huge raindrops started falling from the sky. However, unlike most summer storms, Lynn felt like there was something ominous about this one. Lynn's husband quickly rushed to the other side of their home to see what was going on in town. Once he rounded the corner, he saw the tornado just down the road, and it was headed straight for them. In an instant, the Kauppilas rushed to their basement and took cover underneath a couch. The tornado then struck their home, completely obliterating it. Fortunately, both Lynn and her husband survived the tornado, but their house was gone. Moving at a crawling average forward speed of just under 10 miles per hour, the tornado ripped through parts of Elie, causing significant damage across the town. In just 35 minutes, the violent tornado ripped a mere 3.7-mile path of destruction across Elie, inflicting nearly $40 million in damages, destroying numerous homes, and becoming the first and only F or EF5 tornado in Canada's history. In the days leading up to June 22, 2007, forecasting models were beginning to come to a consensus that a powerful, upper-level trough was on the way for southern Canada. This powerful, upper-level trough looked to bring ample wind shear needed to sustain supercells and possibly tornadoes. In addition, immense moisture evacuation from the Gulf was expected to occur, which would allow for plentiful fuel for supercells, and in turn, tornadoes. However, even with the apparent forecast showing plentiful wind shear and moisture for supercells, a stout capping inversion was forecasted to be present. A capping inversion is best described as a layer of warm air that sits above a layer of colder air, inhibiting vertical air movement and cloud formation. During the summer months, when extremely warm air temperatures are most common, these capping inversions can completely stunt storm and even cloud development. However, even with this capping inversion in place, there was still forecasted to be potential for tornadoes in the region on the 22nd. Although most people think of Canada as cold and desolate, tornadoes are actually fairly common. Generally, 50 to 80 tornadoes a year are reported to Environmental Canada's Meteorological Service of Canada. In general, the Canadian prairie provinces and south-central portions of the country tend to have the majority of tornado reports. However, the locations of most prairie tornado reports are usually near communities and highways, suggesting that many more unreported tornadoes are likely occurring in more sparsely populated areas of the country. On the morning of the 22nd, the sky was clear and the air was humid. As the cold front began to move southward towards the primed environment, another interesting mesoscale feature was beginning to emerge. Just along the southeast edge of Lake Manitoba, a lake breeze boundary was beginning to become clearer on satellite imagery. As the day continued onward, this boundary began to slightly nudge southeastward. At this time, the capping inversion overhead had mostly limited storm development through the day along the cold front. However, throughout the region, high 3 Cape and vorticity were overlapped, further increasing the low-level environment for tornado potential. Additionally, soundings showed that low-level shear was sufficient for tornadoes, especially with the aid of 3 Cape, vorticity, and smaller-scale mesoscale features. As the afternoon continued onward, the focal point for storm development turned towards the lake breeze boundary. Just before 5:30 p.m., two distinct storms began to form and intensify just ahead of the lake breeze boundary. Within the next hour, Storm A to the north would begin to fizzle out, while Storm B to the south continued to intensify. Then, just north of the Trans-Canadian Highway, the tornado touched down in an open field. For most of the tornado's early life, it remained extremely weak and narrow in mainly open farmland to the northwest of Elie. At this time, a camera angle of the tornado showcased the extremely laminar and elephant trunk-like shape of the tornado as it approached the Trans-Canadian Highway. The tornado then crossed the highway and quickly set its sights on a flour mill to the west of Elie. At this time, a video taken from the northwest of the mill showcased the violent motion of the tornado at ground level while striking the facility.
Yeah, that's gonna. Yeah.
At this flour mill, the tornado caused F1 level damage as it made a looping path directly over the mill. After finishing the looping path over this location, the tornado began to move southward once again. At this time, two guys driving westward along the Trans-Canadian Highway captured the tornado as it began to move south. The tornado then made a north-northeastward turn directly towards the southwest side of Elie. By this point, the tornado had grown a slight amount and was likely beginning to produce violent wind speeds near the ground. The same guys from the earlier video captured the tornado again at this point. Multiple other videos were also taken around this time, as the tornado began to showcase a vortex breakdown over a row of 5 houses in southwestern Elie. Perhaps the most iconic video of the Elie tornado was taken just northwest of Elie. In this video, an entire 2-story home is shown being completely obliterated by the tornado. As the tornado continued to impact the 5 buildings in the southwest corner of Elie, the tornado began to make yet another looping pattern around the houses. This looping pattern and slow movement speed of the tornado likely caused the damage in this location to look much more intense. As for the damage in this location, the home furthest to the east received an F1 rating due to moderate damage. The home directly to the west of this house was completely swept away, with virtually no debris being left on the property. This home had been bolted using sill plates and anchor bolts, and the sill plates that remained in the aftermath showed no signs of rot. It was preliminarily concluded that wind speeds of high-end F4 to F5 level would have been needed to produce this extreme level of damage at this well-constructed home. Fortunately, nobody was home at the time of the tornado, as the home lacked a basement. Due to this lack of basement, it would have been nearly impossible to have survived the tornado in this home. The next house in the line was almost completely obliterated, with only a small piece of an outside wall attached to a fireplace remaining on the property. Although the construction quality of this home seemed up to par with the previous home, the damage was not as extreme, and the damage here was rated at low-end F4 strength. The next home in this row was completely gone, with only the basement remaining on the property. However, even with the high-end damage present, this home lacked evidence of sill plates and anchor bolts. At this property, the family who lived there survived the tornado while taking cover in their basement. In the end, this home was rated at low-end F4 level. The next and final home in this row had rim joists that were mounted to the concrete foundation and contained bolting to the foundation of the home, making it an extremely well-constructed home. This home, however, received significantly less damage than the previous few homes and was given a rating of low-end F3. After affecting the row of homes, the tornado drifted to the south and made yet another loop. After making this final loop, the tornado then began moving southwestward before dissipating at 7 p.m. In total, the tornado had tracked 3.7 miles in 35 minutes while causing no injuries or fatalities. As for the finalized ratings of the tornado, meteorologists had just begun to dissect the possibility of an F5 tornado in Canada, the first of its kind. An extensive review of the damage was made over the following weeks. This review pointed to one of the 4 homes having strong evidence for an F5 rating. However, meteorologists were hesitant to give the F5 rating due to the historical impact it would have. In addition, the slow forward movement speed of the tornado cast doubt into the true strength of the tornado, as it could have been over a particular home for a significant portion of time. However, the damage was not the only piece of evidence available to survey teams. One video in particular was the video taken just northwest of town that had shown the devastation of the 2-story home. In this video, the tornado destroyed the 2-story home in a matter of seconds, which to the survey team was enough evidence to support the F5 rating. In the end, the F5 rating was finalized, and Elie became the first and only F5 tornado to strike Canada. As for the human impact of the tornado, nobody was killed or injured by the tornado, likely due to adequate warnings and the slow speed of the tornado. Financially, however, the tornado caused nearly $40 million in damages over its mere 3.7-mile path. That math breaks down to almost $10 million per mile. In the end, the Elie tornado will go down as one of the most photogenic as well as narrow F or EF5 tornadoes in history. The only question that remains is, will it be the only F or EF5 tornado in Canada's history, or will there be another someday? As always, guys, thank you all so much for watching. This video is really fun to make, and I can't wait to start storm chasing season soon. We're really close. We're only a couple months out now, but also, if you're new here, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to never miss another video. And also, if you want to become a channel member today for as little as $1 per month to help support my storm chasing and tornado video making, I would really appreciate that. But yeah, anyways, I appreciate you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.